that day I live in a dream. I live in a dream.
Welcome to Only Trying to Help, the podcast where we try to help you be helpful to other people. My name is Kate Watson, and I'm really excited to have a good friend of mine, Marie Delorme, with me. We go way back, yet this is the first time you're on the show. So Marie, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Thanks, Kate. Well, the feeling's mutual. It's such a pleasure to spend this time with you, and I really appreciate you having me. I'm really excited to be here. I remembered how I met you, and it was at the Motivational Interviewing Conference in Montreal in 2016. And we were on a bus. We were going to a sugar shack where they make maple syrup, and we had this wonderful evening there. And you and I were on the bus, and you were the chair of the planning committee that year. And I just remember how relaxed you were, and you were so lovely. And I felt like, yeah, I was new to the Mint organization, and you just made me feel really comfortable. So super happy to be here.
Well, thank you for that memory. I have to tell you, it's one of the great joys of doing this podcast is getting to chat with people who I've met all over the world and reflect on these cool moments. Like, of course I was on a bus to a sugar shack and made a friend.
Yeah.
Of course that happened. So Marie, can you tell us though a little bit about who you are, what you do, and just like share a little piece of yourself?
Sure. So I'm in Ottawa, Canada, actually just outside of Ottawa, Canada, which is our nation's capital. And my background is in motivational interviewing training, of course, but also I've worked with people with intellectual disabilities, mental health issues, and people who use substances. And last year, I took the big leap and started a private practice. And so now I practice as a somatic therapist as well as the MI training.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned the big word that it's the reason I reached out to you is I thought maybe we could have a chat on the podcast about what it means to be a somatic therapist and just this idea of a mind-body connection, because we haven't touched on this the podcast at all. So I know you were telling me that it's important to you to give voice to how you got into that kind of work and what it is. So start us off a little bit. Like, what does it mean to be in somatic therapy, and what's your story around that?
Yeah, so I've had like a lot of mental health professionals, like lots of training and lots of different theories in psychology and various practices. And I have found that most of counseling is from the neck up, meaning that it's talk therapy, which is great and so helpful to so many of us. And when I think about my own practice, I know you talk a lot about yoga on your podcast. And for me, yoga has been a huge part of my life, and also Buddhist meditation. And when I think about my own personal growth, that has been such a huge part of it. And so the idea of only doing talk therapy, even though I believe in it, I couldn't imagine not including these other things that have changed my life. So I found a program called Integrated Somatic Therapy out in the West Coast, and it is a counseling method, and it also includes body-based approaches. So like Thai yoga massage, paying attention to your breath, restorative yoga postures. So there's different parts of it that include the body. So somatic therapy involves the whole body. So it's not just the head, and it's the idea that we know the nervous system goes through our whole body and our head, and both of those are interconnected, right? So it's about treating the whole person.
Yeah.
And for me, that's I just believe that everything is interconnected. And that's been my personal experience too, that sometimes my stomach's bothering me, but it has nothing to do with like what I ate yesterday. It's just I'm just stressed about something. And maybe there's something I can do to kind of release that or let that go. That's more about just moving my body or maybe doing some breathing exercises rather than simply forgetting about it or pushing it down.
Yeah. You know, I just had a flashback to being an undergraduate student, so like 18 or 19 years old, and in a psychology class. And I
Mhm.
remember them talking about a mind and body connection, but
Hmm.
I remember them framing it as something that some people quote unquote believe in and other people quote unquote do not believe in this. And it was phrased as like a belief system, like it's something you have to believe in or don't believe in. And I can almost remember us being polled, like, okay, raise your hand if you believe in this, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the tooth fairy or something, or like a religion. And I guess I'm feeling old now because things have changed so much that we don't talk about this as a belief system, or at least I don't hear about it that way anymore. Like it's not up for debate if there's a connection between the mind and body. Is it? I don't think it's up for debate anymore.
I think that's such a awesome point. And I think I probably had the same experience when I went to university too. And I think maybe like we thought it was kind of woo woo, right? It's like, oh, my arm's bothering me. It must be from that argument I had with my boyfriend. Like it sounds kind of strange. So I think, as we often do, we need the research. And the research is now there, right? So we have that proof, And so there's somebody named Bessel van der Kolk. There's Peter Levine. He's very popular in the States. Gabor Mate. Those folks have really pushed the science of actually stress does build up in our body. Like they can see it, and there's lots of, different stuff that I've learned through my own program about just how it really is connected. And I love it. Yeah, that's a really good point about the belief because I don't think it's that hard to get. Like if you think about like, oh, I have an exam coming up and your shoulders are tight, or oh, that conversation didn't feel that good. Like I just have this feeling in the pit of my stomach, or I'm nervous. Or like just before we started the podcast, I was saying to you, I was nervous. Like, and I just did like a few breathing exercises before we started so that I could calm my nervous system. Like, yeah, I hope that it's less odd to people. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe there is a long way to go still, but we've come a long way from raise your hand if you believe that your mind and your body are connected. I mean, I would like to think this is not something that's a belief system anymore. It just is.
It just is. Yeah. And maybe it's not for everybody, or they don't really want to pay attention to their body. And that's, they're completely up to them. But yeah, I'd like to think that people, if they started reading a little bit on it, or even just looking up a YouTube video, they'll see that there is science backing it up for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I had someone I've known a really long time say to me, Kate, I'm so surprised. My doctor's giving me something for anxiety. Like, can you believe that my doctor thinks I have anxiety? And like, this is such a surprise to me. And maybe I shouldn't have said it so casually, but just out of my just the first thing that came to mind was, oh, well, that explains all those ailments you've had over the years that like you didn't know how to explain otherwise. This person who I've known most of my life has always had like stomach pains that no one could diagnose, knee pain that no one could diagnose, headaches that no one could diagnose, all of these medical problems that no one could ever figure out what's going on. And then all of a sudden,
Mhm.
anxiety. And I said, that probably explains all of them. And she looked at me like, what?
Absolutely. And I think that's like one of our first clues is
Mhm.
we just keep having this pain that it doesn't make any sense to us why we have it. It's not because we're, my shoulder's bothering me because I've been, I don't know, bowling a lot or something.
Yeah.
It's not about that. We can't seem to have a logical reason why we have this pain or this ache or this, and that's why sometimes they'll just come up with these generalized diagnoses because they don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a client right now who is suffering from a lot of grief in her life, current but also old grief. And for her, how it's showing up in her body is there's a lot of pain in her chest. And it's just tight and sore and achy, and she's not breathing very well. It's just so constricted. And and from what I know, grief often is that's where it lands in our body, is in the chest. So what we do is just some like really basic, easy yoga poses, some postures that kind of open up the chest, some breathing, and a lot of relaxation. Because she is going through a hard time, right? This reactive depression of grief. And it's just like awesome to me to see like the movement, that it's starting to come out, that she's starting to find more meaning in her life and more joy in her life.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I think you could really help us by describing what does it mean when you say it's starting to come out? Like, can
Mm,
you say what that
yeah.
means?
The belief perhaps is that the body has wisdom. So that's the belief of like somatic experiencing, the somatic therapy that I do, is that the body is very smart, and it knows that um, we're going through a hard time, and it does its best to protect us. And then it often doesn't know how to release. So releasing or letting go can look like just tears, like just sadness, or sometimes people will they'll yell out, or just kind of they'll even have body tremors. So it can be like just a physical kind of unraveling to
Mhm.
get that out. And I guess the body goes through that kind of release where afterwards there's like it's just done. Like you're just kind of like, that's over. So if you think about like after a good run, right? You're going and you're going and your body's going through much and so much. And then at the end, it's like, like I just want to crash. And it's that recovery that can really help us, I guess, move on and leave that stress behind.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know
think
if
that's
I'm
really, I think that's helpful, and because people will know the feeling of, like just something feels like it has left me that was once with me. And some people will feel that when they have a good laugh or a good cry or a good run or a good stretch or whatever. But I'm sure everyone listening, whether you've done yoga or not, everyone
Mhm.
listening everyone listening knows the feeling of going, oh, okay, I just like really needed that. Or honestly, not to be gross about it, but like even if you've had to go to the bathroom for a long time and you finally go and it's like, ah.
It's relief, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
relief. Yeah.
And I think that may be part of what you're describing is like you're helping people feel that relief, but it's not necessarily going to the bathroom or it's
Yeah.
not it's not necessarily having a cry, although that could be a part of it. You're helping people feel that feeling of something has just been taken off my shoulders or left my chest or it's leaving me in a really positive way.
100%. Like that's what it is. And so like my approach is very much like I imagine like a balloon, and we're just gradually releasing it, because sometimes that stress or that pain or is very old. It could even be trauma, like big things that have happened to our lives that we just push down and push down in our bodies. And so we just let it out as the person's comfortable. So as you know, coming from motivational interviewing, it's not about doing to the person. It's about allowing and inviting and guiding them, and then they make their choice. So they're healing from the inside out. That's kind of how I imagine it. But absolutely, like you think of just, oh, there's so many things that we can do that are just like, oh my God, I feel so good. Like, going to a concert and just, singing all night with the band and just having so much fun and being around a crowd where, oh, what's that word? Oh, collective effervescence is what they call that. Isn't that the
Ooh.
coolest word? I just learned that a few weeks ago. But I love that feeling because you're just with other people and you're like singing along to all your favorite songs. And that is like golden. So it doesn't have to be like go to a yoga class or take Tai Chi or, it might be just like take a bath or put the candle on. And, again, people are busy. Like, not everyone has like an hour and a half to go to a yoga class, but maybe take 5 breaths, just relax and take 5 breaths and just see if you can note, even just noticing your body is huge because we just don't even know sometimes that pain or stress is even in our bodies.
Yeah. Now, does this also apply to things like my husband will have a hard day at work and come home and he has like a boxing bag. Like if he's sort of hitting that, is that a different kind of release? Is that all similar to what we're talking about, or is that more just like a general benefit of exercise, you think?
Well, if you think that exercise brings out endorphins, right? So it's like, after like punching a bag, like your hormones literally change and you feel better. And absolutely cathartic exercises are awesome, right? Whether it's like punching a bag or going for a run or, whatever it is that you love to leave that stress and tension behind and change your day, right? Like so much, I know I got into the habit where I would come home from work and then just talk about work for an hour with my husband. And it's like, well, I'm still there. I might as well just, stay in the office if this is what I'm going to do. So how can I kind of leave work behind? So that could be his way of switching it off
Hmm.
and then moving to his family life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So one of the things you said that you wanted to help us with was developing like our own body awareness or body consciousness. Where would you like to go next with that?
I guess I would like to just invite people to think about what what they already do, because they probably already do, or at least have ideas of what can release their stress. So, what can help them let go? So, for someone, it might be singing in a choir. And for someone else, it might be just walking in nature. So, like, what is it that you just go, oh, I just, when I do that, like when I play like my favorite song and dance around my living room for 5 minutes with my kids, like I'm just in a different space. So, I guess I would just invite people to think about um, yeah, what speaks to them that would help them relax and kind of leave that stress behind. Um, and we have our phones. So is there some part of the day, maybe first thing in the morning before I grab my phone, could I like do 3 breaths or 5 breaths or something else, but just is there something that I could do before I kind of jump into my busyness of my day? Where I, do a body scan or just kind of go like, hey, how's that shoulder feeling today? Or how's that ankle feeling today? That's just checking in. And I think the more we do it, the more we practice. And then it just becomes our daily habit of like, oh, yeah. Um, I don't know if you've had this experience like in a yoga class, sometimes I go in and I feel great. And then halfway through, I'm like, what's going on with my knee? Like I didn't even know that there was pain there. So sometimes when we start to relax, that's when we notice a little bit more, I guess. We get a bit deeper.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying about like you might actually be doing the thing already, but the shift that you might be inviting people to try that feels new is paying attention to the thing that you're doing. Like you might already come home from work and go for a run every day, or you might already get up and take a few deep breaths every day. You might already be doing it, but why not squeeze all the benefits out of that by actually like acknowledging I'm doing a good thing for myself right now. Let me
Yeah.
notice Let me notice all of it, because you could just go for the run and not notice all the benefits. Fine, you still what, like burned calories, I guess. But
Hmm.
you might as well go for the run and notice all the benefits, because then you're just squeezing all the goodness out of it.
That's so beautifully put. Yeah, I love that, Kate. I think of a friend of mine. We were having a motivational interviewing conversation. It was specifically about running. And I think what motivated him to want to run more was not, oh yeah, this is really good for my body and it's going to help with my, my weight goals and all of that. It was actually like, you know what, this is my moment of freedom. I'm by myself running on, this beautiful trail. There's nobody around. It was actually like this lovely time of solitude. So often that's, if you think about, yeah, why do I really love that? There's like a million other things you could do to exercise, but it's like actually what that thing does for me is about peace, I guess, and just bringing
Yeah.
more joy into my life.
So reaping the benefits fully of this thing that you're doing, whether it is running or yoga or dancing or whatever the thing is that you choose to do. Yeah, maybe you would do it anyway, but we're mentioning the like squeeze all the benefits out by paying attention more.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, squeeze all the benefits out. Absolutely.
Maria, I think it could be really helpful if you told us, like, how would a person even know that their stress is starting to build up? Like, what could they look for or pay attention to so that they might realize, oh, this is happening to me?
Beautiful. Sleep is a big one. So for a lot of us, like perhaps your friend there that you were talking about that has anxiety, we lie in bed and the body's all ready to go to bed and the mind's going, oh no, you're not. I'm going to tell you all your problems and everything you did wrong today. And remember what you did when you were 15 years old and all of that, right? So sleep, like, are you sleeping well? So, are there any problems with that? Are you able to relax at night? Um, any kind of body aches that don't make sense to you. It's, well, I did break my leg, but yet my hip is really sore. Like, what's going on there? We tend to hold a lot of tension in our hips and our jaw. So, if you notice you're like clenching your teeth, maybe grinding your teeth. Um, and if your breathing is different, so for some of us, we tend to, well, of course we have to be breathing. We have to be, otherwise we'd be dead. And yet I notice for sure when I go to yoga class in the evening, I'm like, this is the first time I even noticed that I took one breath and I've gone, all day without it. So what's your breathing like? Are you breathing just from the chest or is it a bigger breath? Like, are you breathing kind of because our lungs are pretty big. So you're breathing more from the belly. Does it feel like a relaxing breath or are you feeling more stressed with your breath?
I think it's particularly helpful that you've mentioned breathing. I know I've said to you, I'm kind of a recovering cynic when it comes to people talking about deep breathing. I spent a long time rolling my eyes when people would say, why don't you take a deep breath? And I'd be like, oh my goodness, like leave me alone about the breathing. Because it seemed to me, like we're breathing all the time. So why do you need to tell me to breathe? And
Hmm.
B, it didn't seem like a breath would be useful enough to change whatever problem I was having. My problems seemed much bigger than anything a breath could solve. And so when people would say, just take a deep breath, I would get pretty upset. But I am recovering from that cynicism about deep breathing. I'm coming around because I don't need to be convinced now that when our nervous systems are on high alert and in a kind of survival mode, one of the most lovely ways to convince your nervous system that really there's nothing to be on high alert about is to pump some oxygen through the body. And so I'm loving the way that you talk about just notice if your breath has changed. And like we said earlier about squeezing all the great benefits out. Well, hey,
Mm.
if you're going to breathe anyway all day, which you are, you might as well enjoy some of them and squeeze some of those benefits out of them.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And yeah, I love that you're seeing some benefits to that, right? To over time. And you're right. I mean, it tends to be a quick kind of like, well, just take 3 deep breaths and all your problems will go away. And yeah, so not bad. But it's just kind of paying attention to our breathing, and scientifically we know if we're just breathing from our chest, our body's not getting enough oxygen. Like it's just not getting the optimum. And as you were beautifully saying, like we're trying to squeeze everything we can out of it. We're breathing all day. Maybe we can take 5 minutes a day, maybe when we're driving in our car, or when we wake up in the morning, or just as we're going to bed. And we can do it on our own, or there's apps, and there's so much free stuff on YouTube. You can find all kinds of lovely breathing exercises, and they can be super, super simple that can really relax our nervous system. And you could do like a guided relaxation where you just kind of think about like different parts of your body relaxing. And as you do, you just kind of inhale and exhale, like simple, simple things that can really help us relax.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I know you wanted to help us with one of those exercises here. And before we do that, is there anything that you might suggest that people really pay attention to, unless maybe it's just the breathing itself, but is there something else that we should be noticing as we're doing this breathing exercise with you? Something we should be looking for in terms of any kind of like shift or release, or should we just
Mm.
see what happens?
Beautiful. Yeah, I think like any somatic exercise, we just pay attention. So we just notice. And you might notice, oh, I wasn't paying attention at all. I was thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner, or what I'm going to do tomorrow, or what I did this morning. So, like, our minds wander. That's what the mind does. That's its job. Like, it's just what it does. So, in a breathing exercise, which it's kind of like a meditation, all we're trying to do is focus on one thing. And then when stuff comes up, we just notice and we let it go by. We return our awareness to the breath, as simple as that. And for sure, thoughts will come up because that's what we do. But we're just gonna kind of just notice and just see what comes up. And sometimes what comes up is, oh wow, like there's actually more tension than I thought, or this actually feels really good. I feel a little bit better in just like a 2 minute breathing exercise. Maybe it's something that I want to implement a little bit more often in my life. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll just
I'm
see.
glad. I'm glad though that you framed it that way, because what I think is helpful is that we're going to do this breathing exercise, and folks should not expect that your whole life is different after this breathing exercise. Like no one is selling it that hard, right? It is just like you might say, "Huh, I do feel like a tiny bit lighter or like a tiny bit different." It's that tiny little shift that you should be looking for. I don't think anyone's going to say, I have just solved all of the problems in my life and like everything's different. We're going to have realistic expectations of the breathing.
Guaranteed. And it's like any other habit, that if it's something that we want to try, you might want to try it, like I say, 5 minutes a day or 3 minutes a day. It's you choose whatever works for your schedule. And maybe after a week or a month or 6 months, you might go, you know what? I really actually look forward to that. Or I'm noticing that I'm a little bit more relaxed or a little bit more patient with people. You might not. But yeah, but it definitely can build with time. And that's the hard part of starting a new habit, is sometimes at the beginning, like I know you and I talk about health sometimes, and it's like, okay, I've been eating really well and I went through dry January, and no, scale's not changing. So what's going on, right? So it's little micro changes that can help
Yeah,
move us forward.
great. So lead us.
Okay, so the exercise that I thought we could try is called box breathing. And so if you just imagine a box, just a square box in front of you, and I'll just invite you just to sit down, relax, close your eyes if you like, and we're just going to take a breath and just imagine that box. And I'll just explain what we're going to do before we do it. So if you imagine the left side of the box, we're going to inhale as we go up the left side to a count of 4, and I'll count us through. And then we're going to hold our breath as we go through the top for 4. Then we're going to exhale coming down the right side for 4. And then we're
Okay.
going to
I'm already
hold.
yawning because you're talking about breathing.
See, and that's actually what we call a release, actually, is sometimes people yawn a lot
Yeah.
during a somatic practice. And they're like, I'm
Just
sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, this is good. Get it out. Get it out.
just hearing the instructions, I was like,
Ah, good. So we got inhale on the left, hold on the top, exhale on the right, and then we're going to hold it out on the bottom, all to the count of 4. And we're just going to do that 3 times. So, you might find if it's something that you want to practice in the future, you might want to do it a little bit more or a little bit slower, a little bit faster. So again, we'll just kind of relax, take a normal breath in and exhale, either through the nose or through the mouth, whatever feels comfortable to you. Imagining that box. And we're going to start by moving up the left side. So on your next inhalation, inhale, 2, 3, 4, along the top, holding for 4, 2, 3, 4, exhaling down the right, 2, 3, 4, and holding at the bottom. And again, inhale left, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhale, 3, 4, and hold. And one last time, inhale left, holding the breath. Exhale, and hold, exhaling it out. And just noticing how you're feeling. That was pretty quick. You might want to try like doing that 4 or 5 times, and you can even slow the numbers down if you like, or have larger numbers. But the idea is that we just kind of keep it even. And that's just one simple breath. There are so many. I'd be happy to share more with anybody who would be interested. Like I say, there's lots of different things that you can do on your own, or guided breathing meditations or exercises.
yeah. I found that incredibly helpful because um I think slowing down the breath and and feeling like I'm steering, like I'm deciding when to inhale and exhale gives this
Yes.
sense of control that I think can be really helpful when the world feels chaotic. It feels like decisions are being made in this world that I don't like, I don't agree with, things are happening that I have no control over, and to be able to look
Mhm.
inward and
Mhm.
and find a thing that I can control like my breath gives me a chance to say, okay, there is still something, that I have control over in this world.
Yes, Kate. And actually, in yoga and meditation, like for breathing exercises, they actually talk about controlling the breath, that we actually can really learn to control our breath. And you might know of, like, you'll hear stories of like Buddhist monks that can, breathe, like 2 breaths in 5 minutes, and they literally control it. And I agree with you, in this world that so many of us are dealing with, and specifically in yours and my country, it's yeah, if there's something that we can do just to calm down our own nervous system, I think it can help us make better decisions, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, so around that topic, like I notice I'm following the news a little bit less. I'm not watching as much TV about what's going on in the news. I try and be informed, but just to the level that I'm comfortable with. Because if I'm stressed and anxious and kind of, in a very nervous state, I'm not going to be helpful to anybody in my life, and certainly not me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do feel myself being pulled more toward the things that I can control. Like that's what I'm interested in right now is what I can do, not the things that make me feel out of control or powerless. And so if folks out there are searching for what is something that is within my control, your breath is a good place to start. Um,
Mm.
Marie, knowing that we're probably winding down here, and there's, I think, several more things we wanted to talk about. I guess a question that comes to mind for me, is there a way that you can see folks weaving in this mind and body connection in their everyday lives, helping other people?
Beautiful. Um, yes, I think, I mean, when we're with like-minded people, I think for me, I like my first thought goes to my best friend. This is somebody that knows me so well, and she knows when my mood is off. She knows when I'm stressed, and so we'll walk. We often walk in nature. That's our thing. We walk and we go for a coffee, and we talk about the benefits and how much better we feel, just to kind of get it out of our system. And I think, like, we know from motivational interviewing, like, just having somebody who can just listen to you, to simply listen to you and really hear you, and not try and solve your problem, not try and give you all kinds of great advice, but just listening to them. Um, and then, like you did with your friend, right? Like, here's somebody who, is this kind of big mystery to them about all of these issues that they had with their body. Perhaps helping the person explore, like, are there other things that you think might help with this ache or pain, or this really hard time you went through in your life? Is there something else that might help? What about you and I, going for a swim together? Or is there, I don't know, maybe go to a spa day? Like, who isn't happy at a spa day, right? Like, you get that, as you said, that aha, like, just, I'm so relaxed here. Like, is there something that we can just do for each other that's not um, busyness? And there's so many things to do, and so many free things, right? Like, as I was saying, like a guided body relaxation where you simply can do it on your own, or do it with a video, but just thinking about the different parts of your body and tensing them and then relaxing them. Like, it's such a beautiful way to notice your body and go, oh, that's what tension feels like. That's what relaxation feels like. So you can do that. Or maybe you love to cook, or you love to play piano, or like, what is it, as you were saying before, like, what can we remind ourselves of that brings us more joy? That life isn't always about that stressor in my life. There's all these other great things. Getting out with friends, going for a walk in nature, savoring a good meal, doing 10 minutes of yoga, or 10 minutes of Pilates, or going on a rowing machine. Like, there's lots of different things that we could do, perhaps, that yeah, will just help us relax and be more the people that we want to be, right? Like, just have more joy, and yeah, just finding that true nature. Like, this is how I really want to be in my life, not in this kind of, fight, flight, or freeze state.
Marie, I'm having like a weird epiphany right now. Not weird, an important one. I've been recording episodes for this season, and I can't remember which order these are all coming out in. So for the listeners, I don't know if these are episodes you've already heard by now or will hear, but I know what's happening in this season. And there is an episode with my other friend Marie Burgess. She came on to talk about the benefits of nature. And in this episode, she talked about taking walks in nature as a lovely thing to do. And you and I have a mutual friend, Scott Kirby, who's another episode in this season. And Scott and I did an episode talking about the benefits of community and not going alone and doing things together. And we talked about taking walks with friends. And here, you just mentioned taking a walk with your friend. And I thought this has now been the third episode, the third time this season that we're talking about taking a walk with a friend, but for all three episodes for different reasons.
For different reasons.
For one
Isn't
of them,
that
it
amazing?
was about nature. For one of them, it was about partnership and community and not going
Yeah.
alone. And now you're mentioning it because of our mind body connection. And I'm realizing there are now at least three good reasons to be taking walks with friends.
Three good reasons. Absolutely. You're connecting with someone else. You're, forest bathing, as they call it, right? You're out in nature. You're looking at the sky, you're hearing birds, like things that we don't often notice, right? When we're just stuck inside. And yeah, you're with community, and your body's getting oxygen and you're moving. It's, you're getting those steps in. There's so many benefits to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Um, well, this has been great. So let me see if I can just kind of bring together what we've been talking about. You've helped us really understand that it's not a belief system anymore. There is scientifically, scientifically, we know there is a connection between our bodies and our minds. It's not always obvious. So, one of the things you've been talking about is how to build more awareness between our bodies and our minds. And we've been thinking about ways to even spread that as we try to help other people, maybe encouraging them to try something that might give them a bit of a release. It occurred to me while we were talking about all those wonderful things that this mind body connection can go different directions. Like, I've known folks who were pretty sure they had a mental health problem that turned out to be a physical health problem. I've even recently read some case studies
Mhm.
about children who were having behavior problems in schools, and they tried all of these
Yes.
mental health interventions for years and years, medications for behavior problems, depression, anxiety. Nothing helped, nothing helped, nothing helped. They changed the child's diet,
Yes.
and like
Mm.
magic, they're behaving differently. So, things that we think are physical can turn out to be mental, and things that we think are mental can turn out to be physical. And I
Yes.
don't think we said enough about that, and there really isn't time, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there to the audience to say, continue learning about this. Like this
Mhm.
podcast cannot be the last time that you explore all those possibilities. Maria and I barely scratched the surface. And so I'm hoping everybody's feeling inspired to go explore, like, maybe that mood that I'm in is actually like that I'm deficient in protein or something. Or
Mhm.
or maybe that back pain I'm having is more about the mood I'm in. uh
Yes.
all of it is intertwined. So, Maria, I'm going to let you just kind of close us out with maybe where people could learn more or how they could get in touch with you if they had some questions. What can you say about that?
Hmm. So beautifully put. So quickly, my stepdaughter had behavioral problems for years, and she's celiac. And once they discovered that, all of a sudden she could concentrate. She wasn't in agony anymore. It's so, yeah, absolutely. It goes both ways, right? So as you say, we need to explore and maybe it's a bit of both, or maybe it's just one thing, or maybe it's just the other. So yeah, so we're just touching the surface. Hopefully, this has given some folks just something to think about around just connecting with their body in any way. Maybe it's a breath or two, or maybe it's just, just noticing what your body is going through, what it might need. Because sometimes we don't even know we're stressed until we learn what true relaxation feels like. So people can get a hold. So I practice somatic therapy individually. I do virtual as well as in person here, just outside of Ottawa in Almont, which is a tiny little town. Um, and they can find me. My website is probably the easiest to give you. It's just mariedelorme.com. So it's mariedelorme.com, and I'm on Instagram as well. I think that one's Marie Carmen Delorme, and I've got a Facebook page as well. So yeah, so I would be more than happy to hear from anyone who has questions, or I'd be happy to provide some resources if people are looking for some. I have lots of friends kind of across the country and in the States as well who do this type of work. So perhaps I could, yeah, give somebody those resources if that's helpful.
Fantastic. I really appreciate it. You've given me a lot to think about. I'm sure maybe you've opened the eyes for a lot of people who maybe just weren't paying attention to all those great benefits of things that they do all the time. So can't thank you enough, Marie.
Well, thank you, Kate. It's always a joy to see you and to speak with you. And again, I really, yeah, it's quite an honor to be able to spend this half hour with you. So, yeah, thank you.
Take me in your arms. I don't want to miss a day without you. Since that day, I live in a dream.